So we're back to the 2002 Dodge Ram 1500 Lone Star Edition 5.9 liter 2002, I think I said it. Anyway, next step for this thing is resolving an AC issue. It has actually two AC issues. This particular AC issue is that this particular truck, ones like it, basically have two sets of air intake cooling devices. This one over here is your transmission cooler, and your radiator on this side is your air conditioning condenser. At highway speeds, this thing has no problem cooling at all. At idle, this thing does not cool well at all. And that would be because this fan right back here, it doesn't work. So pretty sure it's a fan motor. Got a fan motor coming today by FedEx. So I'm going to go ahead and start tearing this thing apart. Get ready for that new fan motor. Now, Dodge, in all their wisdom, built this thing such that if you want to pull a fan with a fan motor, with a whole assembly, whatever, you have to discharge the AC system. And that's because of this piece of plastic right here. There's a little piece of plastic, and it coincides with the hose that connects here to the top of the condenser. And so you have the choice of breaking this hose, excuse me, discharging the system to do it legally, breaking this hose away, and then replacing all this. But you'll see it's a cheat that's fairly common, and that is to simply cut from here to here to remove this small tab plastic. Now, I have a large set of 10 snips that I'm going to try to execute this with. There's the bottom, and let's see if we can get the top. If you do this yourself, be very careful not to trim any air conditioner hoses, anything silly like that. So that part's handled pretty quickly. Now it's on to removing this whole thing. There's a series of bolts. The first set that we have to get are these. I believe they're 13s. I'll let you know shortly. And there's 4 of them. One here, and then 2 down there at the bottom. Now to get to these at the bottom, and also there's a series of 4 bolts, I think it's 4, 10 millimeters, that go in here, that hold the condenser, or the tabs on the condenser anyway. So we need to get to those. In order to do that, we're going to take out these 4 bolts. We're going to lift this whole unit up and get to those 10s, and then hopefully with a lot of manipulating we'll be able to get this fan shroud and fan assembly off of here by moving it this way in the vehicle. But in order to get to these reasonably well, you need to pull the electrical system. To pull the electrical system here, you're not going to pull it per se, we're just going to disengage it here and down here and bring it away. And in order to do that, we need to get the battery out of the way, because basically we want to take it set up here where the battery is. So first things first, take out the battery. Now back to it, you can see the battery's out. Battery clamps loosened. There's one pull down bolt on the battery. Ours, the bottom nut came off. It should be trapped, but plastic it was in broke, so no big. We've got it here. And then of course this is the battery hold down block, so I won't bore you with that too much. Here's the electrical system, removed, pulled away, and it just gives us clearance now to work with this fan assembly. On the fan assembly there's 2 bolts on top, one here and one down here, and then there's no bolts on the bottom. It basically fits down into a set of brackets down here at the bottom, so you can now lift it up. So now that we can lift it, now we can get to these 10 millimeters here on the side. Let me say these were 13 millimeter bolts. The bolt that we took out to remove the electrical system was 13 millimeter headed. So this is 13 millimeter heads on these 2. And then these little wonders, there's 4 of them we think. These little guys are either a Torx head, I think it's a T30, or you can use a 10 millimeter. We're going to use a 10 millimeter. And we're going to remove those 4 bolts, and now that should free us to remove the shroud away from the condenser coil. Alright, well, I'm going to try to let you watch me wrestle this thing out of here. I'm not exactly sure yet how this is going to go, so I'll apologize in advance if it doesn't go well. But somehow we may have managed to push the condensing coil back at the same time, give us enough space here to free up this hose and simultaneously pull this thing up. There's plenty of stuff for it to hang on down there. Just to let you know, I didn't bend away these horns. Horns are down here on this side of the condensing coil, and I bent them back just a little bit. No big deal, just enough to help clearance things a little bit more. Certainly didn't want to take them out. So let's see what we can do here. The fun begins. There we go. That was a nice improvement. And so what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to pull back the condensing coil toward the front of the truck as much as possible, so we have room to get the shroud out on the opposite side. Alright. Okay, that's getting there. I'll show you in a minute, but there's something that hangs us up over here on this side. Let me move this condensing coil forward if I can. Alright, now we're moving. You'll see these tabs right here on the condensing coil. That's where those 10mm bolts were. Bring the condensing coil up a little. Try to get this up. There we go. You gotta be real careful with the condensing coil, so it's not to bang it around too much, mess up the fins. So condensing coil's back in place. Fan, assembly, shroud in hand. Well, now to disassemble the fan and the shroud. This is the inside of the shroud, obviously. Here's the outside. One thing you might note, see if we can, you're not going to see it in there very well right now. I can show it to you in just a minute when I take the fan off, but it's kind of keyed. The fan is keyed onto the motor face. So to begin with, then we simply take this little guy right here, screwdriver, and we're just going to tap this little clip backwards and go from there. Alright, the clip is off. Oh, it's really kind of just a matter of wiggling it until it comes up. Now let me show you what I was talking about. You'll notice down inside we have 3 notches and a center shroud. With this 3-notch with a center circle. Look on the motor, same concept. So when you put the fan on, the fan will not go all the way down until these notches are aligned with the back of the fan. The easiest way to do that is just to simply flip it like this, and you can see in there and you can see it line up. So that's how you want to go about doing that. Now to take out the motor from the shroud. Now listen, on parts options you have the option of buying the whole shroud, fan, motor, everything. It's not grossly expensive, but you also have the option of just replacing the motor. A little more work, but if your shroud's in good shape, none of your shroud is broken away, anything like that, I don't really see a reason to replace the shroud. But again, it's a choice, whatever you want to do. I think we're 3 bolts from being able to do this. So 1 clip and 3 bolts, and we don't replace the whole shroud, we just replace the motor. So anyway, let me get on, let's get this motor out of here. That was easy enough. 3 10mm bolt heads, and then it simply just lifts straight way out of the shroud. So I'm happy with that solution. New motor will be here in an hour or so, coming by FedEx today, and we'll start putting it back together. Well, FedEx man finally came and went. In this case, FedEx lady. And the motor's here. The motor's slightly different. Measured the clearance here. It's the same from the base plate to the top of the spindle, but you can see the structure's a bit different. No big deal. This is also formed on here, secured on here. In this case, it came with it separately, but it goes on, and there's a pin on here, a pin here that latches in to the bottom of this star piece. So it's been tightened up, 10mm bolts. Now time to go in with the fan. Well, one last segment. Look, as I stated earlier, it just goes back the way it came out. As far as installing and removing the shroud and the condenser assembly, when you go, if you watch me take it out, ultimately what succeeded for me was whenever I was able to remove the condenser from inside the shroud, lifting it up and pulling the condenser this way and the shroud that way. The same thing works going in. Lift the condenser up, put the shroud on the condenser, and then set it back down there. You've got a clearance. There's a bracket right here that's going to get in your way, things like that. Make sure when you go back in that you land the feet to this thing into the holes. When you do, these bolts line up perfectly, these two bolts on top, so you know you're there. So I had to kind of give it a little wiggle and a push to get it down in there, but got it down in there. No problem. Reinstalled electrical and reinstalled the battery. The only thing I've left to do is move the truck and look under it and find the little retainer clip that I dropped that was in there. So I'm not in the driveway. It's a little hard to see, but I'll move forward here in a minute and find it. Stick it in. Not a big deal. Got the battery hold down, reinstalled, battery's there, everything's made up. So we'll give it a start and see what that fan does. Alright, so it's started. Right now the fan's not on either, so just turn the AC back on and see what it'll do. Hopefully it'll blow well. Alright, AC's on. Let's see what we get. Fan's spinning 1,000,000 miles an hour, so we should be good. Lots of air coming across the I'm now at idle, plenty cool. Alright, well, I appreciate you watching, and hope this is some assistance to you if you have the same problem where you lack cooling at an idle, but once you get up to speed you have adequate cooling, then this may be your problem. It can be other things. This is not those symptoms does not mean that this is the issue, but certainly take a look. And another way to get an idea about it is you can always take a water hose and just start hosing down that condenser coil, and if it cools off real quick, it's a pretty clean suggestion that fan's not running. That fan's not right. So have a good day. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.